Welcome to Beyond the Flare. I'm Ann Baker, a lifelong survivor of mast cell disease and someone who lives daily with chronic illness. But my story doesn't end there. This podcast is where I share how I manage chronic illness while pursuing a fulfilling and creative life. You'll find practical tips, personal stories, and encouragement to help you navigate your journey. Thank you for being here. Welcome to Beyond the Flare.
Hi everybody. Welcome to Beyond the Flare, a show where we dive deep into the intricacies of living with a chronic illness. I'm Ann Baker, a long-term chronic survivor and a mast cell patient, and this is Brooke. Brooke, the Shih-Poo puppy. Brookie, say hi. Say hi. She is 10 months old today, you guys, so happy birthday to Brookie. Yeah, she has no idea what that means, does she? No. So Brooke is my sidekick and my love and my pride and joy. And every now and then I'm gonna pop her up just so you can see her. And so what I wanna talk about is, first of all, I have notes in front of me because I'm not a seasoned podcast host. So forgive me if I look down or think, because I am trying to make this real and engaging all at the same time without coaching. Ha, how's that? That's what I'm doing. So, does my hair look okay? All right. So what we're going to do is, in this month of January 2025, we're going to talk about topics of chronic illness that are most important to me, and I think are going to lay a really good groundwork that we can build upon for the next podcast for the rest of the year. And today we're going to talk about understanding chronic illness. Okay, so the reality of living with a chronic illness, or what we call an invisible illness, may or may not be what you think. So with most people, when they think about a chronic illness or a disability, they imagine a cast on an arm or a wheelchair, or maybe somebody's coughing because they have a cold or the flu. Going down? Okay. But what about those of us who don't look sick? Invisible illnesses like mast cell disease, multiple sclerosis, which is a tongue twister in itself, POTS, EDS, small fiber neuropathy, and there are so many other illnesses, chronic illnesses that fall into this category, are conditions that can wreak havoc on the inside of our bodies. But to the outside world, we look just fine. And because of this, many of us face skepticism and misunderstanding daily. And I can tell you, I do. I educate people with a very charming way, but I'm always educating people on this disease. So imagine that you're sitting in constant pain, battling extreme fatigue, but when you try to explain your symptoms, people respond with, "But you look fine." Well, I know most people are trying to be supportive and kind and loving. I get that. But for us, that response feels dismissive. It also feels invalidating. So because living with a chronic illness or an I'm going to call it invisible illness because it is invisible, because I look fine, right? It means we have to balance medical appointments with our medical treatments, with our daily medicine routine, which for me changes every few weeks based on what my body's doing. And you have to work in your flare-ups around your regular job. And I am a commercial model and a commercial actress. And so my work schedule is not set. I never know when an audition is going to come up and I have to run to it. I drop what I do and I shoot the commercial or shoot the audition. I get about 2 days notice for any commercial shoot. Again, I got to kind of drop what I'm doing, prepare, and get over to the commercial shoot, right? And so when I'm in a flare, that complicates my life. If it's a commercial and I've been booked, I got to go there. I've been booked. And if it's an audition, I have to really look at it and say, is this going to be worth pushing my body through? So while we do all this, while we're navigating a world that doesn't really want to accommodate our challenges because it isn't convenient, it's complicated. It's complicated every day, and managing a chronic illness is a full-time job every single day. But this just isn't my story. It's the story of millions of people, and our struggles, they may be invisible, but I assure you they're very real. So what's it like to live with mast cell disease? And we're gonna focus on that because I'm gonna say it's my specialty because it's my main disease. I also have small fiber neuropathy, multiple sclerosis creeping in, and many, many more. I have like 3 other diagnoses. And you might look at me like, well, first of all, you don't look sick, and secondly, what? Yeah. So people with mast cell disease triggers other diseases. And so many of us have the complex disease of mast cell disease, but we also have to manage other diseases. And some of them can be just as intrusive as the mast cell flare-ups. So if you've never heard about mast cell disease, you're not alone. And so it's just not widely understood. Today's doctors didn't learn about mast cell disease in medical school. They learned what mast cells are, but they didn't learn about mast cell disease. And most nurses don't know about it. Medical aides don't know about it. Family and friends don't know about it because it's not talked about. It's not sexy like cancer. Not that cancer is great. I don't want it, and I don't want anyone else to have it. But if we were as popular as cancer, we'd be getting a lot more attention and a lot more money into finding a cure for us, because we can die in 10 minutes. We can die in 10 minutes with an anaphylaxis reaction. And that's from beginning to end, not from the time the paramedics get there. So it's a scary disease. It's a scary disease. It just is. And there are respectful and respectable clinics in America right now, because that's where I'm shooting, is Florida, America, who still don't recognize mast cell disease as a bona fide disease. And so because of that, they turn patients away or refuse treatments. And I'm one of those patients. I was refused by 2 different, very renowned, well-renowned clinics because they didn't believe either I was sick enough, even though I was going into anaphylaxis every single day, mind you, every single day. And I wasn't sick enough because my bone marrow results didn't show I was near death. And the other clinic said, we just don't recognize this as a bona fide disease. It's probably in your head. Now we're talking about people with MDs, PhDs, who should know better. They didn't. So because of that, they turned me away. And I'm not alone. I'm not alone. I just have the gumption to stand up and go, I don't want to do this anymore. And I don't want this to happen to other people. So mast cell disease occurs when mast cells, which are part of your immune system, don't function properly. And in my case, I have twice as many mast cells and 3 times as much tryptase as a normal person. And we in the mast cell world call normal people normies. So if I refer to normies, I'm referring to those people who don't have mast cell disease or any other chronic illness, because you function normally. And so what this means for my 5'4" frame is that I have a hypersensitivity to foods, fragrances, and stress. Those are kind of the 3 big areas, right? And so a simple meal or a whiff of perfume or catching a cigar or cigarette smoke as I walk by someone, even riding in a car when you go, on this interstate, sometimes you go over rumble strips, you know what I'm talking about, where you're like cruising along and then you hear zzz, zzz. Well, that zzz can trigger a mast cell reaction because it's a vibration and it's temporary and it's short, but it can trigger it and it's a problem. And if you're in a moving car and your eyes are swelling shut, you got a problem. And so what these things can do is they can trigger anaphylaxis, they can trigger asthma, they can trigger migraines, they can trigger what we call anaphylaxis in the gastrointestinal area, which, by the way, if you've never gone through that, I don't recommend it. I had that happen 2 weeks ago, and it's incredibly painful. It's incredibly painful. My husband didn't know I was going through it because it's internal and it's painful, and I went into the bathroom and shut the door and tried to stay as quiet as possible and just deal with it. He knew I wasn't feeling well. He thought it was just sort of a mild reaction to something we ate. It wasn't. It was a medicine interaction that reacted 8 hours after I had an infusion. And we just never know what's going to be safe and not. So daily life with us as mast cell patients requires sort of a constant vigilance, and we're constantly looking, and we're constantly thinking, and we're constantly asking questions, and we're constantly evaluating, is this safe, is this safe, can I handle it? I read food labels like a detective. I stay as far away I can from processed foods, deep fried foods, but there are also foods that are considered healthy I can't eat because they're not healthy for me. They're not. I can eat 2, maybe 3 fruits. The rest of the fruits, which are so totally healthy, will send me into anaphylactic shock. I can eat blueberries, organic, and I can eat apples. Sometimes I can eat like half a strawberry or something. Sometimes, on a rare occasion, I can have a little bit of peach, like a bite or 2. But if I do more than that, I have a problem, a real life-threatening problem. And so because of that, and I never know what's really in my food when I go out to eat, even though I explain very carefully, it's gonna be as plain as possible, things still get mixed in. One time somebody cooked chicken next to seafood, and oof, that was a bad idea. So I carry both backup medicines and emergency life-saving medicines with me at all times. And sometimes I miss out on social gatherings, more oftentimes than not. And because the environments aren't safe, because there's either too much stimulation, I can't eat the food, can't bring my own food into some situations. I mean, if I could just bring peanut butter and blueberries everywhere, I'd do it, but I can't. And then people who are dressed up on social gatherings, they're all wearing perfume or cologne, and it's just a real problem for me. Plus, if I miss certain medicines at a certain time, it's a problem. And a lot of these social gatherings are right around, they run into the 9 o'clock hour, and that's when my evening meds start. So it's really tough, and it's hard to explain that to people. And they don't care really about your flare-ups. And flare-ups don't care about your plans. They don't care. So whether it's a family event or a work commitment or just a social gathering, when a flare hits, you have no choice but to stop your life and deal with it. So here's the thing. While mast cell disease shapes my life, it does not define who I am as a person. And I'm going to say that again, and I want everybody with a chronic illness to hear, just because you have it doesn't mean it shapes your life as a person. You have total control over that. So if you know someone with mast cell disease or any chronic illness, ask how you can help. That's the best thing you can do. And a little understanding and support will go a long way. I want to talk next about some myths. So this next segment, we'll talk about debunking some myths. And myth number 1 is, you don't look sick, so you must be fine. The reality is, chronic illness often has no visible symptoms. Pain, fatigue, chronic reactions like allergic reactions, they can happen beneath the skin, and with me, most of the time they do. So right now, my hands and my arms are really hurting really bad. So if I'm doing this, I'm trying to soothe them. But you don't know that because you can't see it, and it comes off as being nervous, and I'm not. I'm just like hurting right now. So I'm asking you and everybody to please don't judge somebody based on their appearance. Don't judge their health based on their appearance. Myth number 2, if you just tried harder, you'd get better. Just tried harder, you'd get better. I heard that from family my whole life. Now I'm 55 years old. I'll be 56 next month. And I can't tell you how many people said I just didn't try harder. I didn't keep my room clean enough. I heard stuff like that my whole life. The reality is chronic illnesses are not about willpower. These are medical conditions that require medical treatments and medical solutions. Positive thinking goes only so far, but it can't heal you when you have a medical condition. And for me, the cause is a mutated chromosome. So positive thinking, changing a mutated chromosome to make me whole, I don't know. I was born this way. I'm a mutant. So no amount of willpower, according to science and physics and biology, is really gonna work. So myth number 3 is you're lazy or you're exaggerated. And I will tell you, I was told that a lot. I still am told by some people, or the reaction by some people is that I'm exaggerating, and I'm not. Or maybe a little so that they understand, but Really not, because there's no reason to. There's just no reason to. And so no one chooses, trust me on this one, no one chooses to live with these limitations that mast cell disease and any chronic illness gives us. Nobody. Many people are pushing themselves far beyond where they should be. And they do it just to get through the day so that they can be normal, they can pull in an income, they can participate out in the world with real life people. And because if we didn't do that, we would be shut-ins, and nobody wants that. That's not a good quality of life. That's where I was for 6 years. And I decided I wasn't doing that anymore, and my life wasn't going to end on the sofa, and my story wasn't going to end there. That's why I got up and decided to do something to make a difference in my life and to make a difference in others. And that's why I'm here. And I've also been told by doctors that it's all in your head. Yep, I have been told that. And while mental health is crucial and important, chronic illnesses like mast cell disease, they have a physical basis. Mine is a mutated chromosome. It's not in my head, it's in my chromosomes, guys. It's in my DNA. So dismissing them for a psychological purpose really does a great disservice. And in fact, what that does, folks, is that sends us for psychological counseling so that we can learn how to deal with those people who tell us things like that. That's why we go. That's why we do it. Sorry, but that is exactly why we need to know how to respond in a healthy way, because we need to push kindness and compassion. And my goal here is to help you understand so that you're more compassionate when you reach out to someone else. So debunking these myths, they all start with awareness, and I hope I'm doing my job today. The more we talk about chronic illness, the more we can challenge these myths and create a better world, a more passionate world, more passionate doctors' offices. So I'm going to give you a call to action. And I'm just going to say living with chronic illness is hard. It's a full-time job. If you have a full-time job and you have a chronic illness, you're probably working 2 full-time jobs, and it's not an exaggeration. So helping people build a community where this resonates, where they can feel comfortable, where we can maybe find some solutions together, that's my hope. And I hope you're starting to see that it could be part of yours too. Remember, whether you're a patient or a caregiver, or an ally, maybe you're just a friend of somebody's, your voice matters. Every voice on this matters. So together we can advocate and educate and break the stigma of chronic illness. And so I just want to thank you for visiting me on Beyond the Flare. Please, if this resonated with you, subscribe, like the video, and share it with somebody you think could benefit. We're just getting started with these videos or this podcast. And I'm really hopeful that someday I can get this podcast on those big. I'm not a technical person. I'm a model and an artist. But I do have an MBA, so, there's that. But my whole hope is to figure out how to make this a real podcast and put it on the big podcast things on the phones. There's my technical expertise. I educated my children in a way that they know all that. I do not. So hopefully if you can share this with others, that would be helpful. Until next time, take care. Take really, really good care, not just of yourselves, but of each other. And remember, you are never, ever alone in this journey. I'm right here with you. Thank you. Bye for now.